Good evening. This is the Elliott wave update for the NASDAQ 100 and the S&P 500 for Tuesday, December the 27th, 2022. Again, the market continues to move through its closing argument, so to speak, on where this year should finish. And of course, part of that decision is a lot of positioning and adjusting and what their larger positions are and what they've been holding, and is it time to move on, is it time to get out, et cetera, et cetera. One particular stock that is seeing that pretty definitively and harshly today is Tesla. And I don't normally do individual Elliott wave counts for the individual component stocks within the NASDAQ or the S&P or the Dow for that matter. But I have on occasion, pulled and done and keep some Elliott counts. Now in Tesla, I'm not necessarily looking at it in terms of an Elliott count, but this is today's treat, I guess we could call it. When I take this out, and I'm going to be looking at like a weekly chart, and basically I'm looking at from that all-time high, and this is like X post-split, and I think twice. If there are two splits since the stock reached, I think, 2,800 or 2,900 prior to splitting 20 for 1, and then it did it again more recently. But in any case, this stock has split quite a bit. And from that highest point, from its high, it remains within what's best viewed as a large corrective phase against the history of this stock thus far. If I take it out to the monthly max, you can see the stock only goes back to 2011. And so it doesn't have a tremendously long history to gather data, reaching its highs in November of 21. So we're witnessing a lot going on here with Tesla. And these are part growing pains. These are a part over-evaluation. These are part many, many different factors that have seemed to ganged up on this particular company and its current most senior management / ownership. So a lot is being said. Right now, the stock is continuing to drop. It had gotten as low as almost just above 108, and that's up to closing at 109.10. As you can see right there. So again, what's going on? Well, I can draw a couple of channel lines that suggest further. I can bring this down to the weekly chart, which suggests additional. Even if I'm counting these as threes, and that's a 3, and this is maybe a 5. So it's a 3, 3, 5, then a 3, and then a 1, 2. We're inside a third, and it's, I believe, going to be of a C wave. So if this is all the A wave and that's the B wave are coming down in a C wave, and it's a doozy. As I've often said, beware of the C wave and its power and its depth of where it can reach. Depth higher or depth lower. This one happens to be lower. So what we're seeing is a beautiful third wave unfold. If you're long Tesla, wondering what's happening to your money, it's going down some drain at the moment. And where can it bottom? Well, at best that I can see, even when I bring it down to the daily chart, again saying if that's a 1 and that's a 2, and we're inside this third, we've got a 1 and a 2, and then again 1, 2, 1, 2, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1 of 3, 2 of 3, 3 of 3 move, and it is true to its nature. It is totally true to its nature in that it is just slaughtering anything that gets in its way, as positions need to be liquidated, as getting out is more prevalent, and is just hitting bids. And they're basically standing aside because there's so much going on. And now there's going to be a lot of positions coming into closure at the end of this week. And so a lot of what's happening is going to be balanced out again, what maybe is happening and trading in these options. So there's a lot going on in Tesla. And so even if I'm doing this correctly, and this is a C wave, 1, 2, we're in a 3. The 3 actually does project further. It has slid through where 3 would be equal to 1. Normal for it to do that, but it didn't just stop and take a pause. It broke and kept going. That level is at 136. It's hitting below 109 right now. So it's like going. Next up on the Fibonacci scale is that this third wave would be 123.6% of this first wave. Not uncommon. That's 94.50. And then if it keeps going, 1.382 is 68.60. Plain $68.60. So when I go back and I'm going to talk about, I don't know what's going to produce the NASDAQ to kind of just fold in on itself and really give up the ghost and come to terms with what's happening with its component stocks. You'll notice that they immediately pumped Apple back up of 130. And I think it's to counterbalance what's going on here. Or maybe they were exiting this and putting it here. I don't know. But I'm telling you that Tesla in and of itself has more to the downside. And that's a technical look. That's an Elliott technical look. But the emotion on getting out is real. And that's what's being measured with this third wave going down. And so I would expect here it's going to touch the downtrend line, comes in at 103.50. And then 94.50. And then it breaks again. So again, once we're done, 1, 2, and this is a 3. And if we're coming into the 3 of 3, we got a 4 and a 5 and a 4 and a 5. Before the third is finished, and then a larger 4, and then another 5 before, if this is a C wave, that C wave would be done. What are we looking at? Honestly, could Tesla drop to $50 or less? It could. It can't go negative, obviously. But it could. And oh, that's ridiculous. I bet you people thought 95 would be ridiculous. I bet people thought that 110 would be ridiculous. But it got there and said, okay, go. Keep going. I got more to go. And down it slipped and down it fell. So when you think something isn't possible, that's when it's going to happen. So instead of selling here, you sell at the beginning, where it becomes more evident that going up is not as favorable as going down. And you study a wave count and you keep the wave count and you keep track of it, and you'll know when to sell and you'll know when to buy when things come into play. Now, you could day trade this thing probably like a banshee. But enough on Tesla, but that is what truly caught the NASDAQ today. And by default, in some manner, the S&P because of the weighting. I'm going to go over here into the NASDAQ. That's where we're going to start today. Here we are on the daily chart. There are no changes to make. I still believe that this intermediate wave 2 is done here in the NASDAQ at 12,000. I believe that high. What was that high? 12,339, 12,340. And now we're still coming off. So what is in question right now? And I'm getting a lot of interpretations. Last night when I left this off, I brought that 5 in that 1 and I brought it down to here, and I thought, okay, well, this is going to be, and we are going to go up and we're going to look like we should make a higher level minor wave 2. Well, minor wave 2 has been put back here for right now, because the other balance out of that count is this count. And truly all that really matters is what's in force. Would this be the minor wave 2, or is this the minor wave 2, and that leaves this as the minute wave 2, and it could be over? So let's update that picture. So if we leave this as minor 1, minor 2, and I know for those of you who have not followed me very long, I'm likely driving you crazy, but try to stay with me. This is what the market's decision needs to be, not necessarily mine. I'm putting to the labeling and the levels together based on my interpretation of what the market has done and what it's going to possibly do. So yesterday, when I made my presentation, I shifted this down here and put this, leaving it open. Today's activity pretty much was opposite. It may have started in Globex that way, and we may have made a little bit of an attempt early to maybe try to post a rally, but did not work, and we dropped like a stone, and we kind of just finished up and stuck around down here, primarily because of Tesla turning and hightailing it lower, breaking 115, breaking 110, breaking below, and that pulled out a lot of stops here in the NASDAQ. Now, if this is the case, where this is minor one, minor two, we're in a minor third, minute one, minute two, we did start to fall off that cliff. But we stopped. Next step, folks, would be that we break cleanly below 108.70. Break cleanly below that low, 10,870. And that puts us into a territory where we're going to look at that right now. We're going to go and put the extensions on for that minor third wave. So again, I'm just building the picture, the building as it's being presented today and what it looks like for today. Right now, we got down to 0.382. We did it again today. It stopped us before. We're doing it again today. Is it going to hold and drive this market higher? Now, if it does, we can still leave that 2 there, but it's going to come up in an A. This is A of minute 2, B of minute 2, does a C wave of minute 2. We're looking for basically it just comes back up to 11,195 or 11,200 into that area where we were yesterday in Globex. So we're not looking for anything spectacular. Again, markets are still year-end positioning, year-end position squaring, year-end house cleaning, whatever you want to call it. That's kind of what's happening right now. So if, and I would expect, to be honest with you, Apple to continue to move lower. Also, Tesla to continue to move lower. Find its low, bounce around, hang out, and decide. But that's going to provide enough impetus that maybe we can get down to levels that we need to see here in the NASDAQ, which will be bringing some other things into play. We shall see. Right now, I'm leaving it. Minor 1, minor 2, we're inside that minor wave 3. And this is minute 1, minute 2, sub minute 1. And then we get a little wave 2 again, maybe overnight. But you're going to see, I just don't see how they're going to just start to think that this is all gravy and we're going to go for it. Again, we don't have anything economically. We don't have anything even really dollar-wise pushing or pulling on any direction. We do have some stronger movement in the bond market, but it's following analysis there as well. So again, how this all plays out is now presenting an even more difficult position based on, we can't just do the knee-jerk type of reactions that we have to a dollar being sold or this happening or that happening, because what did we get today? A pretty decent rally in gold. Well, wait a minute, the dollar was down. Okay, interest rates are down. The yields, interest rates are higher. The yields are higher. The bond prices are lower. How does that figure out with gold? So a lot of scratching of the head is happening as well. But we'll get there. So we got to leave it open right now. We're right there at that same level we were last Thursday. We need to break it. We need to keep going. Next up would be 107, 10,740. And then 10,667. And that's going to be towards that larger move down. And that should probably provide some support. But I'm going to call it just support right now. And in all honesty, it's likely not going to hold all that strong, because this inside is going to be stronger because that's what's happening. We'll take a look. We'll see what happens. But ultimately, I think this move, if it breaks 10,742, may find a pause there, but ultimately will pause stronger or find more support at 10,590. Ultimately, on the minor third, I'm looking for it to go sub 10,000. We need to give those levels a test. We need to get down there and do this. And that would bring us into a position where we are breaking below 10,493. That, I believe, is going to happen as we're heading down to these lower levels. And ultimately, we will put in that minor third. I think that minor third can come in down in here. We'll do a minor 4, a minor 5, and we're going to have the intermediate 3. Then we're going to do an intermediate 4, an intermediate 5, and then we will have primary C wave done, cycle wave A done. So we still have some downside to do. Nothing's really changed. I do believe that what's going to happen is going to move out into next year. That's becoming pretty obvious. Even if we start to fall apart up here, we just start to really start heading towards that 10,000, 10,005, 10,004. It's still going to push out into next year. All right, moving over into the S&P. The S&P is actually in a little bit better position to hold itself up, right? We can draw trends going up. It's got a little trend line going to make another stab at getting itself back above 3,900. Get up there, gave it a good old college try, thought it might try it again on the opening. No, fell, dropped, but that all remains in play. The NASDAQ is dropping a lot faster to get itself down to those lows, which are last Thursday. The S&P still got a pretty good claim to fame. It's almost $90 above those levels right now. So bear that in mind, $70, excuse me. Bear that in mind as we either begin to go up or we drop below. Same deal. I'm leaving it a little bit different, right? I'm leaving it where that we have on Thursday's lows. That was the completion point for minor wave 1. That's how I'm leaving it for the S&P. Based on the fact that this still is open as to it could flip and just go just as quickly back up as it could go down. So we got to give it both sides. And these are not truly giving us much of a signal. They're there, but they're not really letting us know either way what the favoritism is going to be going. So I think for tomorrow, we need to bear in mind, oops, go back the other way. This is for the biggest level. So we're still, if this completed wave 2, you're going to run those fibs to that high, and you're going to go from there. And here are your levels. But from these levels, what it's doing, it needs to roll and fall. It needs to go. Something's going to give up the ghost that's holding it up, either in the Dow or in the S&P itself. So, and I think we'll get it. So on the downside, we have, let me go back into this. Come on. Jeez, this thing, pain in the butt. We have, seems like we got another little triangle building here. We do that a lot in these smaller inside moves. But if I had to think, that would be 1, that's an A, that's a B, that's a C, that's a D, that's an E, and it travels lower to finish this sequence, which brings us below that, possibly below that. But these normally come in a 4th wave position, not necessarily a wave 2 down. So wave 1, wave 2, no, not necessarily. So we shall see. But I think ultimately the larger structure will continue to come into play, and that will be a minor 3rd wave down, whether we're in it now or we got a little bit more upside yet to be determined. Unfortunately, that is the case. And that is where I'm going to leave it for today. And our next update will be on Wednesday, December the 28th.